Hello, I'm back with another video on my thoughts on the comic marketplace. Um, as I have mentioned in prior videos about the state of the market right now, one of the things that I have not mentioned yet is the um, investment aspect of the market. For those that interest in investing in the market, here is my 2 cents for what it is worth. Um, if you look at the collective market, I would describe it as a pyramid, okay, where you have in the low end, on the bottom of the pyramid, you will have the cheaper books, that can go anywhere from $1 to a couple $100, okay? And then you go up the tier. As you go up, you enter in the thousand market, and then tens of thousand market, and then you have the nosebleed section of the market. And the issue with the investment aspect of the market, if you go up the pyramid, is the liquidity issues, because certainly as you go up the chain of value, you're not going to find that many people that's going to be able to afford and compete for those high-end books. Sure, a lot of people would recognize that Amazing Fantasy 15 7.0 is worth 50,000 or something like that. But just because I know it's worth 50,000 does not mean that I can or want to buy it. Okay, so the liquidity of those kind of investment are certainly not as good as books that are in the lower tier. When you're talking about Amazing Fantasy, books that are in the 2.0 to 3.0 are still affordable. By that I mean they are not 10,000 yet. They still cost a few $1,000s, so it's not that affordable. But when you're talking about books that are between $3,000 to $6,000, there are a lot of people that can compete for that. Okay, so in general, those books tend to appreciate in value a lot faster than an Amazing Fantasy 8.0. An Amazing Fantasy 8.0 would sell for, I'm guessing roughly $100,000. And over the past, and on top of that, there are not that many copies. Okay, there's not that many copies, so it's not like something that you see every day to compare prices. So it's not that easy to see how the value of that book will appreciate over time. But as far as books that are in the low grade, between 2.0 to 3.5 or 4.0, there are tons of copies that are sold, auctioned off on eBay and other auction sites on a weekly basis. So you can see how the market behaves in that segment of the market. So if you were to invest or buy like an Amazing Fantasy 15 2.5 or 3.0 to invest, most likely that is one of the highly sought after, highly liquidity book, where if you need to sell, you can put it on eBay and sell it fairly quickly. And the same can be said with many other books, especially keys. When you're talking about investment purposes, it's better to stick with buying keys, because they are more likely to go up in value, whether the demand is real or perceived, as well as there's high demand for them. So it's easy to unload them if you have to. For example, Hulk 181. If you put a Hulk 181 mid-grade level, 6.0 to 7.0 on eBay, you can probably sell it very quickly, because It's a highly sought after book, and at that grade range, it's fairly affordable. It's under $1,000. It's a couple $100. There's quite a few people that will compete for it and want it. Whether they buy it to flip it again, who knows? But you can put it on eBay, auction it off, and it likely go for a pretty decent price fairly quickly. Now, if you have a Hulk 181 9.8, that is value in the who knows, 8, 10,000, whatever the true value is of that book. All of a sudden, if you need to sell it, it's going to be somewhat difficult to unload it quickly because the pool of buy up the chain of the pyramid is a lot less. So you're facing with competing for fewer. You're facing with fewer buyers competing for your book, and on any given moment of the time, having one less person competing for that book, for your book, may result in a much lower price than you expected. So, the dynamic of the high-end market is much more volatile than the lower grade books. So, I'm not a big fan of advising people to go out there and buy high grade, Silver Age, or Bronze, or any type of book. If you can buy high grade books and flip them for more money, then good for you. But I'm just not comfortable in telling people to go out there and buy the highest grade possible. I collect high grades because that's what I like, and I accept the risk of not recoup my money if I sell it down the road. But whenever someone asks me if they should invest in high grades books, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't look at the way I collect comic book as investment. Okay. That being said, I think there are a lot of key books, low grade key books like Hulk 1, Amazing Fantasy 15 that are always highly sought after, and because it's it's in the icon, it's in the mindset of just every collector out there. Whether you like Spider-Man or not, most people will recognize that Amazing Fantasy 15 is such a great historical book. There are a historical aspect to that book compared to many other books. And for me, there are a variety of aspects of my own collecting. I collect a lot of stuff for nostalgia. I collect a lot of stuff because I love Neal Adams. I love looking at beautiful pictures that are drawn by John Burns, or as well as good stories. But I also collect for the historical aspect of collecting, and I own a lot of books. There's a lot of books on my wish list that has very little to do with my favorite character. For example, I'm not a big fan of Superman, but I recognize his importance place in history of comic books. So, the action number 1 would be the Holy Grail that I would want to have, and that the desire to have that is more for the historical aspect of Superman and the whole comic genre than my love for Superman. So whenever I advise people about what to look for or what to invest, if that's how you want to approach the hobby, I told them there's a couple ways to look at it. If you have a favorite character that you love, perhaps take a look at the key books of that character and go after that. Or if you want to go after the historical aspect of the hobby, then there are plenty of books that fit the category where it may not have your favorite character, but it stands in history a significant book of the genre, like the Action number 1, Detective Comic number 27, Amazing Fantasy 15, Fantastic Four number 1. There's a lot of books that would fall into the historical significance of this hobby. So there's many ways a person can approach this. Now, the other part that I want to tie into this part of the video is valuation or measure the worth of a book, and that is extremely difficult. Okay, you heard me talk before about how the Overstreet price guide is not that useful for non-keys. The reason why they call it a price guide, because it's just a guide. Okay, it's not the all be one, whatever you want to, I don't know what the term is, but it's not written in stone that this is what a value of something is worth. Okay, you have to understand, Overstreet price guide was a great creation that was needed in the market back in the late 60s, early 70s, where there was no price guide. The whole collectability of this hobby start to emerge in the early 70s, late 60s, and that's where the price guide was needed, because no one really know what the value is. And so for collectors as well as dealers and sellers and speculators, it was a useful tool back then. But the flaw of the price guide in many aspects is it does not has any true measure of supplies and demand. Okay, if you look at the price guide from year to year, there's some kind of incremental appreciation of everything, or just about everything. Like I said, I don't have every price guide to check this, but if for those that have 10, 15, or 20 price guide out there, you can take a look. It's like almost like a mathematical increment of of value of everything, as if that's how things operate in the real world, which is not true at all.